Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thanks, JD. Thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, we have a bunch of mutual friends down there in South Carolina. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Bunch of people that have been on my show, from wherever down there in recovery.
Yeah,
And I think that's how we started following each other on Facebook. And then it was about memes. Let's be real.
yeah, absolutely. The
It's a
meme game and the recovery game, that's where it's at.
friendship based on memes. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to just like you have that buddy you just send memes to and shit, or you just that's what it's about. And I think it's because we both find ways to laugh at our shit. You know what I mean? We're not so serious that like it's like no, I'm gonna die if I don't. No, we have to find ways to laugh and bring some light to the darkness.
Yeah, I mean that's what they talk about a lot in the rooms, is like people are often initially confused whenever they come in because they see us and like we're like talking about like all this like tragic, terrible shit, but we're
And
having such a
laughing.
great time doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So you just celebrated the year recently. You just wait. You just celebrated two things recently, if I'm not mistaken. A year sober and clean and sober, and I believe something else is going to happen in about 8 months, right?
Yeah, actually, I just celebrated 16 months, and my wife and I are expecting a baby boy. So
Congrats, man. That's awesome. I did see that. That's great. That's the gifts right there. What they talk about right in the rooms is the gifts of sobriety right there. Because she's in recovery too, right?
yes, sir.
You guys didn't meet in rehab, did you?
No, we didn't. Pretty close though. We met. She was went to Charleston Recovery Center here in Charleston, and I was in Oxford at the time, right? And then which is a sober living
Yeah.
situation. And she moved into one of the other Oxford houses. And like, I don't recommend doing this to anybody because like I've seen it not work out more often than not. But like, I was only like 2 months sober when we started dating, and like now we're married and we live together, and then we've got a baby on the way and shit. And like, I mean, in my experience, I've seen it go fucking terrible, like a complete shit show, like the spin doctors at the Iowa State Fair type shit show,
Yeah.
but like it just happened to be right with us, it's just been like it's been a blessing. Like when we first got together, my buddy Justin was like, she's either going to be a blessing or a lesson, and we'll find out. And I mean, there's lessons in everything, but so far it's been more blessings than anything,
Yeah, I
you know
mean, it's all about the outlook. If you both are putting your recovery before, you know what I mean. It seems like you're both serious about recovery.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
You know,
actually
like
what like drew us to each other to begin with, is the fact that like we were serious about sobriety.
yeah, and then it was almost like that was your buddy at first, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, like we have a lot in common. We actually vibe well.
Yeah.
So let's rewind more. Let's go further back. Is this your first time in recovery, or is this your second, third, fifth time?
Well, I'll say one time I like to say that like I kind of tried recovery, and by that I mean like probably about like 2 or 3 months before I decided to get sober, like I got kind of like forced into a situation where I got into an Oxford house, and like I didn't take it seriously. It was the first time I had been to like meetings willingly, but like I basically like didn't live in the truck for like a week. You know what I'm saying? Because I was homeless at the time, and like I was like still getting high at the Oxford house, and then like I felt bad about it, so I told the dudes, and then I was like back out on the street. But this is like the first time that like I've ever taken sobriety seriously. Like I made the decision, like fuck this. And it wasn't even like I was gonna get sober. It's just like, okay, I'm just willing to try not doing what I've been doing anymore.
Sometimes it's the easy things that makes this like whole thing like it gets harder when you're harder on yourself, but if you give yourself room to make mistakes, it's a lot easier of a process. Some people are so tooth and nail about recovery that they make one mistake, they're out drinking or using again because they figure this is my excuse out. But when you don't take yourself too seriously and you can find ways to give yourself some breaks, I feel like you get through sobriety a lot easier because you can take a hit on the chin and get back up again. But
Yeah,
if you're
absolutely.
fragile about it, a hit on the chin is going to knock you out cold. You know, it's like getting
Yeah,
hit by Mike Tyson. You're done.
yeah.
So, all right, let's go even further back.
All right, let's do it.
Are you born and raised in Charleston?
Yeah, born and raised in Charleston.
I have an affinity for Charleston because my higher power is Bill Murray, who is one of the most famous residents. He's one of the most famous residents of Charleston, if I'm not mistaken. My man,
Yeah,
he's like part owner of what's it, the Muck Dogs or whatever down
the
there.
the River Dogs, but
River
yeah, same
Dogs.
thing.
Yeah, River Dogs. And he's always like popping into parties and shit. Like, that's like Bill Murray's town, and I love it. You know, for those who don't know, Bill Murray lives in Charleston most of the year, and he is like a staple resident in that town. But he's also my higher power, bud. Like, seriously, like I have right there. It's Bill Murray as Jesus. Like he's legitimately been my higher power for years, man. It's crazy. So that's why I've had so many of your people from Charleston on my show because I have such an affinity for Charleston because of my higher power. That's like his little like home. So it's so funny that you and I hit it off as buddies because like I was like, well, another Charleston kid, of course. And I spent a year of my life in Durham, North Carolina, a few hours away. So like
Yeah,
I know what the South is like. I was an alcoholic in Durham, North Carolina. I lived blocks from Duke University and all the main bars. So I was at the bars 6 nights a week, easy in my drinking days. Like
damn
I
it.
had just lost a fiance to like suicide. So like I was
Yeah.
spinning out. So I always had this little like, you know, thing for the Southern guys and girls. So let's see. Born and raised in Charleston. When did you discover drugs or alcohol? What came first, chicken or the egg?
Okay, so for me, all right. Well, I mean, I was like prescribed to Adderall whenever I was younger, but like outside of that, like really I got into smoking weed, man, was like the first thing. And like before I even like it wasn't until like I did like my fourth and fifth step that like I really realized that like I suffered from the spiritual malady like my whole life, you know.
What now? What do you, for those who aren't in the rooms? What do you mean by spiritual malady?
Okay, well, I mean, I was spiritually sick. I always felt completely different and alienated from my peers. I always like felt like I was a one, but needed to convince people that I was a 10 so that I could just feel like a fucking five. I like always had to have something to like stand out and define myself by. You know what I'm saying? Like I was never okay with like just being Brian. I was like I always had to be like the drummer or the artist or the nerd or whatever. It was like always all those things before just being me. I was never comfortable in my own skin.
So
You know,
you're, yeah, okay. So when did you first get into drugs or alcohol? How old were you?
like I was like 11, I want to say, first
Me
time I ever
too.
smoked weed.
Me too. But for me, it was drinking first.
Yeah, see,
Now,
I mean, like I had been given like a sip of my grandfather's beer whenever I was like 7, and I was like, this is fucking disgusting. But like, like the first time I ever smoked weed, like from the first time I ever got high, like I was like the fucking the allergy and the obsession, you know what I'm saying? Like that phenomenon of craving, it being the only thing I ever thought about, that was like right out the gate. Like
siblings?
I have two. I have an older brother and a younger sister.
Either of them in the same boat as you?
Well, my sister is in recovery. As far as my brother goes, it's not for us to decide if somebody else is in it, but my personal experience with him abundantly shows that he might have what I have.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, we all have it in different ways. Like I'm the oldest of three, and we all have different obsessions, right? We all
Hmm.
have different things that, you know, whether it's my sister in success, she's really driven by, you know, where she's at. She works for a law firm. She's a realtor. Like she's the first one to own her own house, and you know she's the youngest, or not the first one, but she bought a house at like 22, and I'm at 36, still never a homeowner, and she's 9 years younger than me. You know what I mean? My brother, my little brother, well, he's my younger brother. He's 3 years younger than me, and the day that I left for rehab is the day that he bought his first house. Swear to God.
Damn.
So, like, I feel like is that a cat behind you? I see a little shadow.
Yeah.
I have
Sorry
two.
about that.
No, I have two, man. They're always all over. Last night, I did an episode and I came upstairs to my studio, and my cat, Scuba, we have Scuba and Diver, their names, their brother and sister. And Scuba
Hell
was
yeah.
just sitting on my computer chair where I sit in my little studio here, and she was just looking at me like I'm the asshole in the wrong spot. So,
Yeah, no shit.
so did you have middle child syndrome?
um, yeah,
I
I
fully
guess.
believe it's real. I've seen my brother struggle with. We were on a road trip one time, to Montana and back from Jersey, and my brother randomly goes, "You know, I'm the only person in the entire family without the letter A in their name anywhere." He was like 10, like he was not that old. And my mom was challenging him. She had to call her cousin to see what her cousin's husband's middle name was, and it had an A in it. So like my brother,
Oh shit.
my bro when my brother picked like a whatever name, a Catholic name, he made like Aaron or Aardvark or something that had like four A's in it or some shit. So yeah, I understand what middle child syndrome can be like. So you're 11, you're smoking weed. How quick does it turn into drinking?
Okay, so like drinking for me was like something that like came later. It was definitely like for me it was like smoking weed like and I know how it might sound, dude, but I was like smoking pot to like a crippling capacity. It like completely like dominated everything that I wanted to do. Like I mean, I passed school and shit. I still did well in school, but like I didn't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? And then like whenever I want to say 15 or 16, I got into pain pills. And yeah, I was like 15. They had done like the pre-surgery to like cut my wisdom teeth out. And they gave me a prescription for Lortab 7.5s. And the very first time that I took them, I took like 8 of them right off the rip.
How old was
You know,
this?
like 15.
How old are you now?
I am 37 this year.
Okay, and I'll be 36. So we're around the same age. So that makes sense to me then. Okay. Because I graduated high school in '05. You were probably
Yeah, I graduated
'04.
in '04.
Yeah. Okay, so that makes sense. We're about the same age. So yeah, I discovered pills my senior year in like 2005 is when I got into like somas and like muscle relaxers and shit. Like I was an alcoholic by 12. By definition. I don't mean that I was like drinking like an alcoholic like every day at 12. I mean by 12 I was drinking to escape already.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like I was an alcoholic by 12. At 11, I was drinking with my buddy watching The Outsiders. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
we wanted to be cool greasers and drink like them. But by 12, the first person I knew died in my life. And I didn't know how to cope with it, so I thought drinking was the way to cope with it. And boom, there's me being an alcoholic the way I'm drinking to escape. So now the lure tabs, how quickly do you like I want to say graduate into harder shit?
Okay, so I'll say like 15 was like Laura tabs, and by the time I was 17, I was shooting heroin.
Okay. So you didn't
Yes.
waste time.
No, no, no. I wasn't. I was in it to win it. I hopped right on the J5 Express.
So did you know you were an addict already?
Um, as soon as like, okay, so the whenever I first started taking the pain pills, like the Lortabs and shit, I didn't think so much. And then like as that progressed into like I had this friend, right? And he like always wanted to like do harder drugs. And I lived in like a far less affluent area. So I had like access to these things. Not saying that like that's like a strictly, impoverished thing, because I mean, A-listers do cocaine all the time, but I had access to a friend who had coke, and like we started doing like I don't know, like $7,000 worth of cocaine a month, roughly. Like we were stealing money from his mom to get it, and she came to us one day with a bank statement and was like, "Where the hell is all this money gone?" And then like, of course, we vehemently denied it at first, and then she leaves the room, and then we're like, "Fuck, dude, this might be an issue." But like instead of like me internalizing that like man, I have a problem. Like in my addiction addled brain, I was like, this is like a badge of honor. You know what I'm saying? It was like something I identify with. Like, yeah, like I'm cooler than you. I'm a fucking junkie. You know what I'm saying? And like, I kind of rocked with that whole mentality for most of my using career. It was something that I prided myself on. It was, I guess, in my head, it was like people would like kind of like weaponize it against me. So I figured if like I took ownership of it, was like self-deprecating about it and shit, that, like you couldn't use it against me if I was proud of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me because I was the same way. Like, I remember there was one time, man, I was living like 2 hours from my plug, and I would drive the hour and a half, 2 hours to go see him most of the time, like there and back, hour and a half each way. And
Damn.
that's with no traffic, and I would do the drive most of the time. But there were some times where I would be withdrawing so bad, right, that I can't make that drive. And if I had the money, I would pay somebody to meet my dude and bring him out to me. That kind of deal where I would hook you up with like four, like for bringing them out to me, because
Hmm.
I was buying bulk at the time because I was making good money. Um, and I was so prideful that, like, you know how people send dick pics.
Yeah.
I used to send videos of me doing giant rails,
Yeah.
like Snapchats and shit, to my buddy that I used to get high with. I would send him a giant line, and it all gone in seconds.
Just Scarface it.
Scarfacing it, bro. Like, and so proud of it, recording it, like a sexualized romanticism kind of way.
Yeah.
I equated the dick pics, except people definitely didn't want to see them, either one of them. Anyway, so I remember this one time I was paying some dude to bring him out to me, right? And I was getting like 20 of them or something. 20. I was addicted to 30s, straight up, like 30s for a decade. I never even did heroin one time. That's how much I love 30s.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That was like your brand. You were
That
true to
was
that.
my thing. Yeah, I didn't stray. And that was kind of my functionality too, because I wasn't going to dope. In my head, I'm like, well, I'm not shooting heroin. I'm just sniffing pills.
Rationalizing it.
Yeah, but being okay with it at the same time. So there's one time I'm paying this dude to bring out 20 to me, and like in my head, I'm going, all right, I got three I'll do tonight, two tomorrow morning, and then I'm like planning it like that's gonna stay true.
The delusion.
Yeah, dude shows up with 20 of them, and he says to me, he goes, "Hey, I told my buddy how you can do six at one time. You should show him." I'm like, "Hell yeah, I'll show him." Just like that, out the window, I broke up six and did a giant rail. Like, no, there was no, in my head, I was delusional about it, but I knew I was an addict. And the longer I could like hide it, the longer I could stay in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I totally get it. The almost like functioning because you're okay with it kind of deal where it's a badge of honor.
Yeah.
All my
Absolutely.
all my friends were drug addicts. You know what I mean? Like I had some friends from like childhood that like maybe weren't drug addicts, but basically, if I was hanging around you, we were getting high. Let's be honest.
Right.
And not just pills. I was smoking a lot to escape then too. Like I use cannabis today, but I don't use it to escape. I use it as a medication. I don't use it. I don't like. I won't have a bad day at work and then get super baked on smoking because that would be escaping, in my opinion.
Right.
Does that make sense?
No, no, totally.
So everyone, and I went to a rehab in LA specifically to teach me how to use cannabis in a positive way. It's the first rehab of its kind in this country. I don't even know if it's still there. It was called High Sobriety, and yeah, and it was like you locked up all. You couldn't have flour. This podcast is also sponsored by BetterHelp. If you are looking for therapy and not able to get something right away locally, you can do that with them. Within 48 hours, you can find a therapist to get on telehealth with you. I mean, I haven't heard anything but great things from people that have already done it, that watch my show or listen to my show.
if you're looking to get 10% off your first month, you can go to betterhelp.com/MJsPNPMCA. That is betterhelp.com/MJsPNPMCA.
Yeah, so that I went to high sobriety, and I had a doctor that I basically learned how to use cannabis as a medication, instead of use it as an escapism tool. I don't recommend it for
Right.
everybody. It's definitely not for everybody. But it's worked for me for the last 4.5 years. So, it's definitely not for everybody. I've seen other people use it, and there's a reason why I don't think it's still around today. I think I'm one of the exceptions that actually is still sticking true to it 4.5 years later. Because
Right.
it can be tough mentally to be like, oh, I can escape with this, technically. You know what I mean? So you really have to be honest with yourself to know where you're at when using it. So I definitely don't recommend it for anybody. It's definitely it's something. It's harm reduction. You know what I mean? But still, I don't recommend it for everybody.
No, I
But
mean, I get that, dude. Like, I did like the methadone thing for years and Suboxone thing for years, and like, for me, it just Mika, stop. It wasn't just like, it was just like my problem with it is like it still like aggravated the allergy for me, but it didn't quiet the obsession. So like, I was on like 315 milligrams of liquid methadone a day for like 4 years straight, but like I was still like banging heroin on it and shooting ice on it, and like like it didn't stop my use, it just gave me like a fallback so I wouldn't be sick
yeah,
you know
yeah, exactly. As opposed to using it as an actual medication, like methadone
hmm
can be used for. But yeah, like you said, you were just using it so you wouldn't be sick, and then you would still get high anyway. I
Yeah,
think,
and like I would still
yeah,
flip out whenever I couldn't get high, even though like I wasn't sick, because like I said, that it still like
mentally
I
you were
still had the
sick.
craving. Yeah, mentally I was sick as fuck. Spiritually, I was sick as fuck. So it was like it was just like a crutch that did absolutely no good for me. And then like whenever I finally came off of it, because like in my infinite wisdom, I was like, I'm just gonna cold turkey 315 milligrams of methadone a day after 4 years. Mika, stop. Um, like dude, the protracted withdrawals for me like 3 4 months long. Like the first 2 weeks I tried to withdraw from it, like I like didn't sleep like a wink. Like I took like 90 Xanax bars in like fucking like 4 days and still couldn't catch a nap. It
That's
just had me
and
like
that's
blacked out
absolute.
and wanting to fight Jesus.
I was gonna say because that is calling for a full on blackout. I mean, I remember one of the. I remember I remember that
Mika, stop.
I remember
I'm
this happened.
sorry, dude.
No, you're fine. One of the last times I used Xanax, and I didn't even learn my lesson. I had eaten a bunch and was like, I'm going to go drive to see my plug, which, like I said, was an hour or two away. And I would take the Pennsylvania Turnpike to New Jersey to see my dude, right? And
Right.
I'm a mile marker guy. Like, I'll mark off, like, okay, I know I got to get off this mile marker, so I always know where I'm at. It's my OCD is to pay attention to the numbers. People lie, numbers don't.
Right.
So there was the one time, like, all right, I'm at mile marker, whatever. So I'm 30 miles from my exit. In my head, I said that. I swear a minute later, I was 30 miles past my exit. Woke up, came to, just like driving 90 miles per hour in a blackout.
Yeah. Way overshot the mark.
Way by a half an hour. I had to
Yeah.
go completely out of my way, and I wouldn't have been as upset, but I was on Xanax.
Yeah, yeah, you're wearing your Zanny panties, so you're like all ready to Hulk smash
Oh,
some shit.
oh my God. There's been some times. I remember the one time I drove there just for 230s.
Jeez. Yeah, that's
Um,
pretty harsh, man.
so I get there, and well, my logic was I could wait hours to meet somebody or go do it myself and get it over with. So I go and I meet my dude up, and he was like, "Hey, my car's in the shop. Can you give me a ride to go get it?" And I said, "Yeah, it's fine." And he hopped in the back seat because my dog was in the front seat with me. So he
Right.
he just hopped in the back seat, and we're driving. And I was not waiting to take those two that I bought from him. And I was the kind of
Naturally.
guy, I used to do them while I was literally driving, because I would just put them inside I would drop the pill, I would take a straw,
Straw.
bend it in the middle, and
Crush
then
it with your teeth.
crush it with my teeth, and then out the side of the straw. Well, I get them in there, and I'm about to like extend the straw and fix the crease so that I can snort the entire thing.
I see where this is going.
Hit a speed bump, hit a speed bump, and it's all over my lap. Dude's in the back seat going, man, if I wasn't with you, I would have never believed you. Here's two more. And because he felt bad.
Damn.
That's the kind of relationship I had with my dealer, is that he would feel bad for me, and because he knew how much I needed him, he would just like, here's two more. I feel horrible. I know I never would have believed you if you would have called me to say this happened, but here's two more. So,
Yeah,
but
it's like trying to call your doctor and be like, I swear to God, all my pills fell down the sink. Like,
I I've created a false police report for that.
yeah, I've done it too.
Like, hey, I was broken into and they stole all my pills. And if you get a police report,
Yeah, they'll refill it for you.
yeah, but it's still, you're falsifying a police
Police
report.
report, yeah.
Like, that's not that's not like it's a like slap on the wrist a lot of the times. I'm not going to say where that happened so they can't get me.
No. I feel like don't incriminate yourself. I
Yeah,
mean, you
but
can make an amends by not doing it again.
exactly. Well, I've done my 9-step a few times over by now, and my ninth and eighth and ninth, and there's still some apologies that I need to make. I mean, if you're watching or listening, going, you never apologized to me. Hey, I'm willing to apologize. I have to be willing, but there's no time limit on this shit. As long as you're willing. I read it carefully, Brian. I know.
No, I feel that.
So you're one of those exceptions that you actually still live in the area that you used to get high in then.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't go to treatment. I didn't do anything. I'm in the program. I'm what they refer to as a cash customer. I'm one of those people. I came in off the street. I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And stop it, Mika. And like
For those that are listening and curious, Mika's his cat, and his cat is trying to take the phone from him because he's probably paying attention to me and not Mika.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a very astute observation. That is exactly what's going on. She's a little shit rag sometimes. I love her to death, but she is very attention seeking.
Yes, Scuba R1 hates when my wife is on TikTok. It's almost like she knows that if she's on TikTok, because she'll start walking over her lap and getting in front of the screen and knocking the phone out of her hand. It's like, if she does an Instagram reel, she doesn't walk over. But as soon as she goes on TikTok, I swear that cat knows that she's on TikTok. It's like, hey, I'm going to watch your screen time.
Oh yeah, Mika does that too. I'll be on the phone and I build like model kits. It's like one of like my passions that I've been able to like rediscover,
That's
since
awesome.
sobriety.
Yeah.
And so like I spend a lot of time building, and anytime that I'm building, I'll be like trying like detail these kits and like panel line runners and shit, and like Mika wants to jump in my lap and like literally like I'm like sitting here with like lacquer liner like trying to detail these things, and she just like wants to grab the sheet I'm working on and shit and like and play with them. Or like if I'm doing my Instagram for it, like she will literally like climb in my lap, she will look at my phone and then look at me and then look back at my phone, and she's smart enough now that she knows if she puts her paw on the screen will react. So she'll like swipe the screen and be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, did I just fuck you up?"
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, my bad.
I ended up having to get, because I do all my editing on my MacBook, like when I'm in bed, and I had to get a MacBook. It's a MacBook for cats. It's $10 on Amazon, and it looks like a MacBook, but it's got a small like 6-inch screen, and it's a mirror. And all the cat wants to do, we found out from TikTok, is their cat is trying to mirror us. So the cat sees me on a laptop, the cat wants to go on a laptop. But if you get the cat a laptop, they're going to stare at themselves the entire time in that little mirror. and be completely like, they'll think that they're doing what you're doing. Isn't that crazy?
That's
That's like
crazy.
the psychology of it that I forget where we heard that, but once we heard it, we're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Um, so let me ask you this: were you homeless, like, or like just like living like on other people's couches and shit?
Okay, so like homelessness, like most people like go to school and get degrees and find careers. My career was homelessness. Like I was a professional bum for I don't know, man. Like I could never like maintain a place to live. Like crashing on people's couches was like a very intermittent thing. Like I might have like occupied inside of somebody's residence while I was like on a 2 week meth bender or something, you know what I'm saying? Just because like
Yep.
we were all awake the whole time. But like, nah, man, like I was a professional street urchin. Like people talk about when they get clean and sober, like they start getting all these things back. I don't know anything about that life. Like like all these things that like I'm getting, like I'm just now getting, you know what I'm saying? 36 years old, like a stable place to live. Like I was able to buy a car not long ago. I haven't like owned my own car. Like this is the longest I've ever even owned a vehicle. I've only had it for like fucking 5 months, dude. Like if that'll give you any clue, like all these things like I'm just now getting. And like that's like what I think was like, at the time whenever like I was really spiritually sick and in victim mentality, and all this shit was like happening to me and like woe is me and my life is fucked up. Like I couldn't for the life of me understand the purpose in any of it. But like in hindsight, now that like I am very different, I'm spiritually different, I'm mentally and bodily in a better place. Like I look back on all those things that like I used to feel like so much regret and remorse for and feel so fucked up about, and I look at all of them as blessings. Like I spent like 22 years in active addiction. 17 of those was spent shooting heroin and crystal meth and shit, like religiously. And like I couldn't understand for the life of me why all that shit was happening, dude. But it was all necessary, for this path of growth that I was, to later get on. Because if it wasn't for those experiences, for the amount of time that I spent in like a self-inflicted prison in hell, like I would not have the appreciation for the things that I have in my life now, nor the motivation to continue to do the work. Because like, as long as I stay doing the next right thing, and I have this program of action as a way of life and continue to do this, then like God willing, I will never go back to that. Like 22 years is a hard lesson to learn.
I would, yeah, for me, drinking 11 to 33 really, and pills was 21 to 31, a solid decade every day where this was my thing. And there were a lot of like, I used to, I don't even want to get into that. It was bad. I get it. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes we do shit that, like, I moved 30 times. Like, I basically was homeless because I moved so often. And it
Right.
was like, I would be like, I'm going to go to Massachusetts. I'm going to go to North Carolina. I'm going to go to Pennsylvania. I'm going to go back home. I'm going to go do this. And I always had different things that, like, all this, like, built up in my head. I'm going to go there and all this is going to change. And the problem is, I would go there and then be the same person there as I was there. And then the cycle continues.
Yeah, you take
And
you with you wherever you go.
yeah, it didn't matter that I was in North Carolina and I didn't have my pills nearby. Because guess what was nearby? Plenty of bars.
Yeah.
Like, I lived in downtown Durham. I didn't have to drive to any of the bars. It was literally a half a cigarette, because I measure everything in cigarettes. It was a half a cigarette walk from my place to the bar, where I had to finish my smoke real quick to get in to get to my. I had my own chair. I had my own, like, if somebody was sitting in my seat when I walked in, the bartender would say, "Hey, he was actually there. He was smoking. You got to get up." And tip, because I was that tipper. I was a hell of a tipper. So, I was preferably, my drinks were a lot heavy handed because I
Yeah.
knew how to tip. But that was just me being an alcoholic every day.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
self-seeking at its finest.
And then I would still buy pills. I would still like, I would Western Union money up to New Jersey and then have my dude overnight them to me and then sit there and stare at the tracking like a crackhead. And the one time they ended up in Alabama, and it
Oh
was a
no.
weekend, and I had to wait until Alabama sent them back up, and had to pray that no one opened the box and all that shit. And I was just like stalking the mailman on Monday, like, come on, motherfucker, I know you're coming. It's that kind of shit, man. It's wild. And people say shit about weed to me about weed, and I literally laugh at them because I can go days and weeks on end without it, and I'm a little more sick in the head, but I'm not like ever to the point where I run out and I'm like, okay, who can I lie, cheat, and steal from in order to get more weed? And that's the difference to me.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, man, if it works for you, I know my experience and myself well enough to know, dude. Like,
It doesn't
I
work for
don't.
everybody.
Yeah, like I can't even like every now and again, like my wife will like take a melatonin to go to sleep, and then she'll be like, you know, do you want a melatonin? And I'm like no, because like I know myself. Like if I'm gonna take one, then the next time I take them, I'm gonna be like, well, I can just take 6 to get to sleep even and sooner. And even though it's like not narcotic, like that is relapse behavior. And like
It's not like I said earlier. It's not how much, it's why.
yeah, it's a lot of it's your motivations behind it and shit. You know what I'm saying? So like I don't take anything but like ibuprofen. You know what I'm saying? I drink Java Monster 300s religiously every morning whenever I wake up for work, and I still vape. So like
Yeah.
emotional sobriety, I guess to a certain extent, is like, you know, still something that I'm working on.
I
You
still
know what
smoke
I'm saying?
cigarettes, bro. I still drink coffee every morning. I smoke cigarettes every day. I've cut back to like 5 cigarettes a day now. Like it's almost noon today, and I still haven't had a cigarette.
Oh yeah.
So, so there's a lot of the. I once used to see this guy a lot at meetings, and he used to say, "I never quit any drugs. I just stopped starting."
Yeah, that makes sense.
And to me, that makes a lot of sense because I can't quit smoking cigarettes, but I can go as long as I can go without starting again. Because sometimes I'll go 12, 18 hours without a cigarette. And then once I have one, I have four. You
Right.
know, once I break that seal open, it's over. So, but I can usually go on when I'm not working on the weekends, I can go a decent time without having a smoke. It's usually motivated by like, oh, I'm gonna make a phone call, and then like I light up a smoke to make a phone call and that kind of thing.
Right.
But so what are some things that you do now to like, I don't want to say escape. You said you do model stuff like that.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna say that like I don't still have like an obsessive nature. Like, and I don't know, like once you get to a point in sobriety, like some like questions that you wouldn't think start to become significant, like do start to become significant. I watch a lot of anime. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty much like almost like an independent contractor at my job. I'm on the management team for back of house. I'm like the prep cook supervisor, and so like I work for the restaurant that I work for. Like I'm employed by them, but whenever I go to work, people don't fuck with me. Like I go in, I clock in, and then I do what I do. Like as long as I get my work done, I can pretty much make my own hours and whatnot. So I just listen to like death metal all day. Like I have my headphones in, people don't talk to me.
Well,
So
you
like I
said
just
you're a
like
drummer, right?
yeah,
Did
have
you
been since I was like 15.
did you see Sound of Metal?
No, I don't think so.
My buddy that I used to live with just won an Academy Award for doing the music, the audio effects
Oh
to
wait, you're talking about the movie about
the
the deaf
drummer.
drummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, my buddy won an Academy Award for doing the audio to that movie.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's
He
pretty
was
cool.
my old roommate, and so I didn't see it. I just know that he won the Academy Award, and it's about a drummer.
Yeah, it's
Whenever
pretty dope.
whenever I think of drummers, what did I just watch? The Dirt. Did you what?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I've seen that.
You know
Absolutely.
you know that Ozzy story with him sniffing the ants is a true story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like he did that shit right in front of them, like by the pool, just doing like it. And someone asked, I saw an interview on Stern, and what's his name, the friggin' heroin addict in Motley Crue,
Nikki Six.
Nikki Sticks. Stern asked him like, "Hey, is this true? This story?" Because this is when the book came out, and he said, he goes, "Was Ozzy trying to impress you guys or something?" And he goes, "Ozzy didn't care about anybody impressing anybody. He was just that crazy that him snorting a line of ants was going to be how he got high that day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's definitely one of us.
um, Ozzy's 100% one of us, and so is his kids, and like,
Oh yeah.
oh my god. But then again, imagine growing up in that kind of turmoil too. It's hard to not escape, you know.
Yeah.
So so you're listening to music helps you a lot, and plus you're in the rooms a lot too, I take it.
Yeah, so like I don't know, man, like one thing like my wife says that like I'm passionate about like my models and stuff, but like do I go a little overboard with it? Like yeah. Do I feel like it's unhealthy? No, like it's not hurting my finances, it's not taking away from my time in the rooms and working with others. You know what I'm saying? But it's like something that like I do all the time, but like like one thing that like I've learned in sobriety is that like obsessive nature that I have, like the way that like I can kind of benefit that or from that and kind of turn it on its ear a little bit is like I'm a very routine oriented person. You know how we addicts are, like we don't like change, you know what I'm saying? So like one thing I've learned is to like establish these routines, like talking to my sponsees, talking to my sponsor, the meetings that I hit and things like that, and have incorporated like recovery and things of that nature into my life to a point where it's an established routine, and my obsessive nature won't let me fuck that up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like I've gone after like the recovery thing with that same obsessive nature that like I've applied to other things in my life. And I mean, so far it's worked out for me. I mean, I've never accumulated sobriety before in my life, and this time like I decided that I was going to do it, you know, and I, you know, should like to think I came after it with the desperation of a drowning man, you know, and then after being a world class fuck up for my entire life, you know, I'm able to sit here today, you know, 16 months sober, you know, and by God's grace I'm still here, and like I've been given like all these wonderful gifts, you know, but like the sobriety and recovery thing is like, you know, my sponsor and I were talking about it one day. It is like a gift, and it's not something to be squandered, you know? Like the whole reason that I'm still here is that I've learned the way out, you know what I'm saying? And it's I'm obligated to. It's my responsibility, it's my duty to help share that with other people, you know, because it's like, you know, at the end of meetings, you know, like the reading you know, reaching out. You know, the whole reason that I'm here today is a combination of what's God's plan was for me, my level of willingness, and the fact that somebody worked their 12 step on me. You know what I'm saying? Like a man reached out to me whenever I was sick and suffering, and showed me that there was a different way. You know, and I wouldn't be here today because like if I can't take suggestions and take advice from another man who I can see tangibly on this plane, you know, like how am I going to listen to what God has for me? You know, God,
Yeah,
higher
it's the truth.
power, you know, like
Yeah,
what
whatever you want to call it. Yeah, good early
yeah.
direction. I had a big problem with saying God early on until someone said, "Oh, just say good early direction in your head every time, and you'll be okay with it." And I'm like, "Really?" And it's the truth.
Yeah,
It's one of the
or
things.
growth or death is a good one.
Oh, I didn't hear. I didn't ever heard that one. That is a good one. Growth or death. That's a good one.
Yeah, because I
Uh,
mean, for me, that's absolutely what it was. You know, like I spent like 2 months in the hospital on my deathbed. I had MRSA in my blood from shooting dope, and like it settled in my neck. I lost two vertebrae in my neck. Like my whole neck is like a titanium cage. I'm like Weapon X from like here up, and you know that's you know that was God saved me from that, and like you know it was like apparent like there was a point in time when my physicians like called my mother and let her know that like if my condition didn't turn around in the next 2 days or so that they were gonna have to start making arrangements to bury me and shit.
that was early in sobriety.
No, that was at like the end of my last run. Towards the end, it was I was in the hospital. I was in MUSC, like I was a full-time resident, and I don't mean like student resident, in MUSC from like early October until the beginning of December of 2020.
So during
So
COVID,
yeah, COVID was still going on. Yeah, it was
yeah, it just
yeah, it was
started.
yeah, it was 2020 because I got sober in May of 2021.
So that didn't even stop you.
No, I got out. They gave me enough Dilaudid for like to last me 2 days. So I mean, like, of course, like I ate that before I left the hospital. And then like it took me like 2 months to recover from my surgery, dude. And even so, like a week out of the hospital, like my brother and I were staying in a friend of his spare bedroom for a few days. And I convinced this man, well, like I mean, like I still got like tubes and shit hanging out of my surgery wounds, and I convinced him to let me borrow his car, cooked up some bullshit lie that I'm sure at the time that I felt like he honestly believed. And I borrowed his car and went to North Charleston and went and like begged a buddy for dope. I was right back to shooting dope again. You know what I'm saying? A week out of the hospital. Like it didn't slow me down. You know what I'm saying? Because like I was just in the grips of it that hard. You know?
Yeah, it's I know exactly what you mean. It's crazy to think about. Like I remember this one time I went to Chicago for the weekend, and this was 8 months before I stopped doing pills. And I went with my brother, sister, her, now husband, and it was just a weekend getaway to go to Chicago and see a bunch of cool shit. And I went for the free trip, and I ran out of pills that Friday morning, and I didn't withdraw all weekend long. I don't know what it was, but I did not go into withdrawals at all that entire weekend. I even drove back into town the 8 hours or whatever, 12-hour drive. And I'm like, I haven't withdrawn in 3 days. This is probably a good idea to quit now. And then, of course, I get one text message saying I'm good, and that it's a wrap.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yep.
I wasn't ready.
Yeah, and then your
I
mind convinced you were sick immediately.
Then all of a sudden I was in pain. And I'm like, oh, I'm glad that you're good. I'll be there in 2 hours. Like, it didn't stop me. But I'm glad we got to sit down and talk because we love to share memes with each other and shit. And so I haven't heard your story. So I was like, you know what? I got to give Bryan a shout to see if he wants to be on this. So I'm glad
Yeah,
we
I
got a
appreciate
chance to
that.
sit down and, talk. And I'm sure he'll be on again and we can have some more fun. But thanks again, man, for taking the time. I appreciate it. Congrats on everything and the little boy on the way. That's awesome, dude. It's so awesome. That's the gifts right there, man.
Yeah, the promises, bro.
Yep. All right. Have a great day, man.
All right, thanks, JD.
All right. See you.
All right, later.